Welcome to Modern Musings, conversations with the maiden, mother, and crone, where we look at ourselves and the world through the lens of the 21st century. Hello, and welcome back to Modern Musings. I'm your hostess, Cindy Murray, and I'm here today with my co-hosts, Kristen Hessler and Amber Garvin.
Hey.
Hi.
So we have an interesting topic this week, and we are going to be exploring the idea of paganism. Later this week, we have the summer solstice coming up, and a while back, I was talking with some of my friends about the source or the origin of a lot of different holiday rituals and things that we do, and how many of them have what some would call pagan origins. And so I wanted to kind of address where those, not necessarily where those specific traditions came from, but the idea that something is or isn't pagan. And many of us do observe the calendar dates of the equinox and the solstice and sometimes the full moon and things like that. And those are technically, in a lot of ways, pagan things that, that pagans would have observed. But we accept those into mainstream culture, just like we have Easter eggs and we have Christmas trees and a lot of other things. So I find it really fascinating that some people are turned off by the thought of something being pagan, when so many of the things that we have embraced actually are pagan. And so I wanted to start off just talking briefly about what the meaning and where the word came from. In the strictest sense of usage, the word pagan means the authentic religions of ancient Greece and Rome. So the, we're all familiar with Apollo and Zeus and all those different gods that they worshipped. And that the word itself, Kristen, can you say that word again? Paganus? Paganus. Okay, thank you. Is Latin. And it really, the real definition of that is people who lived in the country, or out in the country. And why that started to be applied to a religious group of people was because Christianity rose in the cities first. And so when the people of the cities started, would see that there were people who weren't following the Christian sect, then they would start referring to them as Paganus. Sorry, I don't speak Latin. So they would call them Paganus because they were basically saying you're just old country folk. That's why you're still following Apollo and Zeus and whatever. So it really was really meant to point that out, and it wasn't meant to say that they were followers of a certain religion, only that they were still embroiled in the old ways. So now it's really broadly used to involve anything religious that is not Christian, although sometimes the Jewish people also use that terminology, and some people use it to say any religion outside of the traditional mainstream five, which would be Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism, Islam, and Buddhism. So it's, just embracing or all encompassing of these other beliefs, anything outside of those. Others use it as a term that means without religion. So we're kind of talking about today where that goes. Technically, paganism is not a traditional religion because it does not have an official doctrine. It's really just a group of common characteristics that include a divine presence in nature and a reverence for the natural order in life. And this is talking about the more common use of that word today. Most American groups that practice paganism blend a lot of Celtic, Greco-Roman, Native American, ancient Egyptian, and Norse beliefs. And they've also incorporated a lot of ecological and feminist movements into that. So it's very often a matriarchal system in a lot of ways and things like that. But I really would like to spend today kind of dispelling some of the myths about paganism being related to devil worship or witches necessarily, although there are pagans who do practice witchcraft and believe in those things. But not all pagans are witches. And so I just kind of want to share some of that info today and just see where we go with it. So, ladies, do you have any thoughts or knowledge that you have on paganism and the involvement of in that group of activities or anything like that?
Well, I have been exploring the Unitarian Universalists, and there's a lot of kind of that vibe within that type of religion. That
right. They accept
religion,
accept that. Yes, there are many pagan followers within the UU Church.
Yeah, because the UU Church really believes that many paths lead to the same summit. They're because of the belief in humanity and the earth, not necessarily following a deity. There's not one specific deity that UUs follow. Universal,
right? As is true of the pagans as well. A lot of pagans can be Christians, right, or Jewish or whatever. But they follow some of the other pagan beliefs.
I think the idea of paganism is that you're not locking yourself into just one strict order or sect or being orthodox or anything like that. You're not limited to this one doctrine, but that you can piece together different ones that work for your values and your beliefs.
Well, and I see, when they're talking about the divine presence in nature and appreciation for the natural world and the natural order of things. So a lot of pagans, have rituals or respect and regard for things like birth, death, and natural processes of life that are not necessarily part of the Christian church or whatever, or they add to the beliefs of the Christian church. I know a lot in the past, in like our history, a lot of times people who were natural healers, because back in the early days of the Christian church, if someone was a botanist or which is what we would call them now, but an herbalist or someone who had some natural healing knowledge, they would often be branded as a witch. Just because the church was trying to limit the power of women in society, because the church has long been that patriarchal society that squashes women, and...
Well, I think a lot of the time, say that someone was ill.
Yes.
They had the option of praying to be saved or the botany, and a true believer in the faith of that time would believe that praying would cure the illness,
would cure them,
and to do anything
different
other than that was unchristian in a sense, because you weren't putting your faith in God to heal you. You were putting your faith in that healer to heal you. And I think that is where people were afraid. I mean, think about it like when the monarchy kept changing religions to suit his needs to get divorced and such.
Henry VIII.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when you think about it, if you believed in something that wasn't exactly what he believed, there's fear of life or death there.
He branded some of his wives as witches, Anne Boleyn being one of them. You know, he accused her of being a witch to get out of his marriage to her.
Right.
And
so anyone who lived under that rule would fear using anything besides, the clergyman to be healed.
Yes.
And a lot of times that's what the monks did. You know, they did a lot of that.
Yes.
And even, with the nuns, after that, nuns did a lot of work, even up until the 1900s, the nuns were actually midwives in England to deliver the babies. Mm-hmm. And, post World War II. And, that was done in the church. Or through the church. Mm-hmm. And so anything outside of healing and stuff outside of the church was very taboo.
Right. Well, and even today, a lot of hospitals are actually owned by a religious organization.
Exactly.
So, the Methodist hospitals and
that's why we have alternative medicine, and it's still very taboo to get things like acupuncture. A lot of people still believe that acupuncture is a pagan practice.
Right. But it's actually been proven to be effective in a lot of different ailments and things. So, and that's kind of why I wanted to talk about these things, because that's a perfect example of one of the things that is a misnomer that people have about it. And like the idea of devil worship, that all witches worship the devil or whatever. And that again has come from people misconstruing what was said in the Bible and so on and so forth, about divination. And,
well, you can thank Hollywood for that too.
Oh, absolutely, because they've like romanticized or demonized things,
literally.
Right.
Yes.
And so yeah, the idea that everything is evil or wicked, coming in, like I said, from the Bible, there's the line about suffer not the witch to live, and they weren't talking about all witches or everyone who does magic, because obviously in the Bible there are many people who perform miracles, including the apostles and all that. So it's not all about performing magic or miracles. It's not all about people who can do divination, because there are many prophets who foretold the future. So that they're not talking about that. They were really talking very specifically about people who were misleading kings, advising the rulers to take certain courses of action that were not necessarily what God intended per the Bible. And so those are the people that they're saying don't let them live, because they were misusing that power in a way that it wasn't meant to be used. They weren't doing it in a helpful way, and very oftentimes it wasn't even real divination. They were actually just making things up to say what they thought the ruler wanted to hear.
I don't really think that scripture means to go out and kill them
No,
either, because
but a lot
literally
of people
God said, do not kill people.
Right.
Thou shalt not kill.
But a lot of people, I mean, that has been
it differently.
If it's been interpreted that way, I mean, thus the Salem witch trials. They would burn people at the stake for just looking cross-eyed at the neighbor's cow, and then the cow's milk dried up, so.
Or if they wanted their land.
If they wanted their land, or they were jealous of them, maybe there's a pretty girl and she caught her husband's eye.
That's how a lot of that started.
There's a lot
of speculation that a lot of that stuff going on in America was due to other issues. Like
yes.
group psychosis.
Yeah,
and stuff like that.
psychosis, drugs, stuff in the water.
Contaminated water was one of the big reasons they think.
Nobody.
But there's also the church itself has in the past been a part of that problem because they burned heretics at the stake for believing Protestant beliefs instead of the Catholic beliefs. I mean, how many people were burned at the stake for that? Joan of Arc.
Right.
And so we're getting a little off topic for the paganism, but that's where I was trying to go with that, is that a lot of times that's where those ideas, those bad impressions of paganism come from. And I wanted to kind of dispel those myths because in a lot of ways, a lot of us practice some sort of paganism without even realizing often that that's what we're doing. Mm-hmm. So if you have Lucky Charms, we talked about this during
Luck of the Irish.
The Luck of the Irish, and around St. Patrick's Day and stuff. Lucky Charms, if you believe in superstitions, if you put up a Christmas tree, if you hunt for Easter eggs, these are all pagan things, pagan holidays, pagan beliefs.
It's about the Christian religion kind of took the whole Christmas tree idea.
Well,
yeah.
And part of that was because they knew they could not convert the people as they were doing their crusades. They knew they couldn't convert them, so they just decided to co-opt their religious beliefs and kind of work them into the Christian fabric, and then that makes everybody happy. So then you have Saturnalia, and you have
Yule,
and so many. And like I said, we still practice. We still observe the solstice.
We still say Yuletide greetings.
Yes, we do. Mm-hmm. So, what other examples of paganism can you guys think of that maybe are in the mainstream?
Halloween.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Halloween.
Samhain was
one of the pagan holidays. It's a Wiccan holiday. Mm-hmm. It revolves around the time of year. A lot of those holidays are based on where the Earth is traveling around the sun. Mm-hmm. And that one is, around the time of the harvest. There's a couple of different harvest holidays. But that one is also in alignment with one that is celebrated in Mexico, probably in South America, Day of the Dead. I mean, that's here. We celebrate that here in America, and it's becoming more prevalent too here in America as well.
Especially down here in the South, yeah. And a lot of non-Hispanic cultured people, practice, not necessarily practice,
because it's just about honoring the dead.
Yes, and so yeah,
or they just want to put on makeup and wear pretty dresses and have sugar skulls. Decorate things with sugar skulls.
I think that's the fun about accepting that it's okay to be pagan, is that you're not changing your religion. You can still believe what you want to believe, because that's what paganism is believing in what you want to believe and celebrating what you want to believe and honoring the earth and honoring humanity. Mm-hmm. And
people don't realize that.
That's really the basis of
anything that's outside of that specific Christian I don't want to use the word dogma, but the ritualistic Christian theology, anything that's outside of that tends to be labeled as pagan. So we celebrate birthdays. We do. And that's not a Christian holiday. That's very much a pagan thing, and I'm okay with that. And I'm okay with calling myself a neo-pagan, in that I am a lover of nature, and I believe that our earth is precious and we need to take care of it and, try to conserve energy and conserve our natural resources and not fill up the landfills and not pollute and all those things. And the, that the cycle of life is precious, both the beginnings with birth and also the endings with death, that those things are precious and need to be honored. And that's where, I feel like I am a pagan in a lot of ways. And I also observe a lot of fun things too, because I read tarot cards. I have oracle cards. I like to collect crystals because I think they're beautiful. And, if they give me some extra power, then more power to them. And I'm interested in other religions and other cultures and the things that I can learn from those, even while still being a Christian. And I do identify as a Christian because I follow the teachings of Christ, not because I am part of a specific church or follow a specific doctrine. I follow his teachings about love and honoring the poor and the children and the widows and things like that. And so I feel like I can embrace my own religious beliefs as well as the pagan spirit at the same time.
And you should be able to.
I think so too.
And
I know this is hard to talk about, isn't it?
Yeah, because I don't want to lean any certain way.
I don't either. I may leave this part of the conversation into the recording because this is a difficult discussion to talk about because so many people are offended.
Yeah, if you think that if anybody, and that's why I don't like to discuss religion with people, is because people look at you a certain way if you say you believe a certain thing.
That's why I don't feel like paganism is a religion. Well, you are not worshiping.
Well, no, it's not that. It's just, but like, say some people would say, oh, if you say, oh, I'm pagan or whatever, then like you said earlier, people are automatically like, oh, you worship the devil.
Right.
Yes.
Well, I feel
or
like that's why
like
it's important to explain it. In some way or another, we need to continue to have that conversation to explain it because mainstream religion is the major sects, which are, Christianity, Judaism,
Islam. Those are the big,
major ones. Yeah.
And then you have Buddhism and Hinduism. And actually the Buddhist religion is not really a religion in that aspect either, because it is not based on following a specific god. There is no god there. Buddha was not a god. He was an enlightened being who taught great lessons about the life force that's within us.
Right. That's why some consider it a philosophical tradition, whereas that's where I feel like paganism is also a philosophical tradition.
I would agree with that, yes.
Versus a religion.
Well, and I think some people mistakenly connect paganism to Wiccanism or Wiccan. How do you say it?
Wicca.
Okay.
Wicca or Wiccan.
Yeah, Wicca.
See, I'm not very familiar with it. It's not a practice that I follow. But
people
I think
automatically assume that if you say you're pagan, then you're a witch. Yeah.
Yes. And so I think that's where that connotation comes from. And they are two completely different things.
Technically, Hinduism is considered a pagan religion because it is polytheistic.
Polytheistic, yes.
Which is one of the major ones that's considered of the major sects or religions, whatever you want to call them. That's the only one that's polytheistic other than Wiccan. Those are the two religions technically that are like mainstream worldwide.
Yes. And people have, like I said, a lot of misunderstanding about a lot of it. So I think you were telling me earlier today, Kristen, that in Wiccan, the adherents will choose which deity to follow.
Yes, so Wiccans choose their deity.
And I believe that in Hinduism it is also
sort
of that way.
Well, Hinduism, they have their deities from their religious storyline, just like the Bible has its stories of characters. And that's the best way to say that.
Mythology.
Their mythology. Right. Yes. So when you have your Roman and your Greek mythology with those deities, there's also Celtic deities.
And Nordic.
Exactly. Yes. So and then you have Native American as well, because there are different entities, spirit, in Native American religion that also kind of have like a deity in its sense.
Yeah.
So
different countries, different religions.
So that's the thing with being Wiccan or Wicca, is that there's that freedom to choose.
Okay.
And you pick the one that fits you in your heart. And so you could be Wiccan and follow Hindu deities, or worship Hindu deities.
Okay.
Or Norse deities. I know a witch that follows Loki.
Okay.
Yeah, in Western culture, most of our deities are going to be Roman, Greek, Norse, all of the Greco-Roman area, the Gaelic,
and probably the Gaelic. Yes.
Yeah. So that part of the world over here in the Western culture, that's the most common over here.
Right.
You could be Wiccan and follow Native American deities.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying too.
Oh,
we have, the Native American deities also. That's the Americas probably has the less deep rooted in that culture, but the Aztecs also have their own deities as well.
The Mayans, the Polynesians, they have yes. So there are many, many different religions, and most of them are rooted in nature. And
those are all considered pagan.
Pagan, yes, because
pagan is a way of thought. It's not a religion.
A religion itself, yes. So the religion itself would be the worship of Loki. Loki followers would be in that religion. Yes. And so you can be pagan without following one of those deities. You can be pagan and still be a Christian. You can be pagan and still be Jewish. You can be pagan and still be whatever. So I think that's a good distinction to make there, and that there is no ties to the devil. There aren't any nefarious activities or required rituals that you have to do or anything like that. It's all in respecting the earth, respecting the natural order, and finding ways to have your own spiritual clarity and fulfillment within
harmony within the world.
Yes, yeah. I would love to know what you guys think. Give us some comments. Get over on our Facebook page and let us know what you think about paganism. What have you been taught that pagan means, and how does it come to play in your life? Do you follow any pagan beliefs that you didn't realize were pagan? Are you totally against paganism because you were taught that you can only do the things that the church allows? I'm anxious to hear what other people think, and let's take this conversation a little further. So you can find us on Facebook, and the easiest place to find us is at modernmusings.net. And you'll also find our blog there. and more podcasts to listen to. So that's a great place to go to get the whole story and to carry on the conversation. Before we leave, I'd like to ask Kristen to tell us what our next topic is.
It's me.
Is it you? Okay.
Yeah, I'm the host, and our next topic is bariatric on a budget, which is something near and dear to mine and Kristen's heart. As we have mentioned before that we have had bariatric surgery in the past, so we're going to talk about some of our struggles that comes along with that.
Well, that's a great direction to go and a very big departure from where we are today. So
yes, it is.
I hope you'll come back and join us. And we want to thank Red Door Studios and Creative Audio Tech for our gear and for our fabulous theme music. And I hope you're staying and listening to all the theme music. It really gets me bebopping when I listen to it. I love it. And I want to thank them for contributing that. We especially want to thank you guys for coming back week after week to listen. And I just love having you guys be part of our conversation. But we really need you to take your part of the conversation. And we also want to give a shout out to all the fathers out there, because Father's Day is coming up. And as we mentioned at the top of the hour, the summer solstice is coming. And so there's lots of great things to celebrate. And we hope you will have a great one. Bye-bye.
Bye.